All right, man. I'm having technical issue after technical issue. I don't know if that actually played or not. Same thing last week. Anyway, hey guys, welcome to the podcast. My name is Jeff Kaufman over here at Sub Two Empire. And before we get started today, I want to first of all thank you all for joining. It's an honor to have you guys join us and see what we do over here. But as you know, this is a live production. I'm sitting here doing this live. So if you're joining us through Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, any of the socials, I would invite all of you to head over to our YouTube channel. Maybe after you're done watching this, head over to our YouTube channel where you can subscribe directly to each one of these podcasts. You're just going to click on the live tab up at the top of it on YouTube, and then that's of course our YouTube channel, Sub Two Empire. That's the only one out there like it. You can't miss it. But just click on that notify me button, and YouTube will send you a notification whenever we're getting ready to go live. So I'm not sure exactly what that time looks like, what that notification lead time looks like, but they will notify you. I actually get the notification, so I know it does work. And then also I want to remind everyone to head on over to sub2empire.com and see what we got going on over there. If you are interested in getting into the creative finance space, or maybe even just picking up a few nuggets about creative financing, head over to Sub2 Empire. It doesn't matter if you're brand new to creative finance or if you're some old salty investor. We have a ton of resources over there for all levels. All right, guys, I want to bring on my guest today. I recently connected with this guy, and I've known at least of him for several years. We operate, first of all, in the same market. We're both in the St. Louis area. He has been in real estate for right around 20 years, I believe. He can clear that up for us. And I find this guy rather fascinating because he's got a really great story to tell. And he's built his business in quite a unique manner. So I always forget this. Hold on. I'm gonna make sure this is right. All right. So everybody, please welcome the creator of the Kevin Dairaghi podcast, Kevin Dairaghi Show, and a master hugger, Mr. Kevin Dairaghi. There he is.
That's the first time I was introduced as the master hugger. So I'll take it.
Hey, man. Yeah, we got to. That's one thing at first I was really, really uncomfortable about that with you, but I've seen you do it in several occasions, even last year at the Gateway to Freedom thing. And I was like, man, who is this guy? What the heck is going on here? but hey, I welcome it now.
It's not so bad, you know?
Yeah. It's a great introduction, man. It really does break the ice. You made me feel, on your podcast, made me feel really, really comfortable. So I do appreciate it.
Hey, but the way, man.
Yeah. So Kevin, throughout this whole thing, I want you to feel free to, talk about, plug anything you need to plug. It's totally just kind of a free for all. And you definitely provide a great service to folks. So I would, that would be my goal is to really, just help people get the word out there about what you do and really just get people on the right page in their real estate investing businesses. So
actually, let me go back. Do you know how the hugging actually started?
Do I want to know?
Well, no, it's kind of like, so we're raised Italian, right? So anytime we came in the door, like mom, dad, we had to get up, say hi, and then we could go back. Old school Nintendo was big at the, when I was.
Yeah.
So it's like you had to set it down, go say hi, and then you could go back. But like where it really, really broke out. So I was working with the home buyer at the time, right? And he's like, Kevin, what can we do to kind of merge these two businesses, right? They just merged with Keller Williams at that time. And I was like, okay, there's like two different cultures. I was like, man, why don't we go out and buy a bunch of hugs and a bunch of kisses, right? The Hershey's little chocolate. And we would go around to different people and say, all right, you want a hug or a kiss? And, whatever they chose, we'd do it. We'd either hug them or we'd kiss them. And then we'd give them the candy. And then we went through that whole office that they had. And it was totally awkward and weird. Like we're just walking into different people's offices and like, hey, you want a hug or a kiss? And then like, and they're like, then we just
Yeah.
run to the next one. Like it was so awkward, but it would also like people would smile and laugh, and it ended up being like a super fun. And then a lot of people are missing, so they were actually over at remember Chesterfield Mall back when I was a
Yeah.
little bigger than.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we went over there and we made a rule. Anybody we saw on the way to this, they were there for a bold conference. So a room full of hundreds of people in a conference doing technical strategies, right? But we said anybody that we came across, we had to do this challenge. So we found security guards that we did it to. We found homeless people we did it to. Any walkers in the mall we did it to. Then they were in the conversation of this class, this bold class, and we went around to each table like, okay, here we go. And everybody was like, who is that?
Sounds like a episode of Men Behaving Badly. That's what it sounds
Yeah,
like.
it's yeah. And Ryan and I just went through all these places doing all this, and it was just one of those like, okay.
That's
After
awesome.
that, it became a thing.
There you go. There you go. Now it's your trademark. It's like it's the thing. You just know it's going to happen when Kevin shows up.
And it's authentic, so it's not like it's made up. It is.
There you go. There you go. Cool. All right. So I don't know where we want to start here, but how about a little bit about Kevin Dairaghi? How about a little bit? I don't know, some of your background. I don't know if you want to get into the real estate side of things first, or just where are you originally from and all that good stuff.
Go.
What's that?
This is your show, man. You tell me where you want me to go.
Well, let's just start off with where you're from. And I don't know, are you a St. Louis native?
I am.
Are you? Okay.
So yeah, I'm born and raised in South County. We've actually had a Dairaghi and a Lumberg schools consecutively since like 1964, either as a teacher or as a student. I have 3 boys. They're now in the program. So like we have been firmly rooted in this South County world here. So my mom was a Limburg leader. My wife now is a Limburg leader. So it's like, all right, we got a pretty good legacy down here.
That's cool. Yeah. And so I'm assuming you graduated from Limburg, and then I'm
well done, man.
You can't get anything past this guy.
No. I went to college. I went to Rolla, right? And at that time, I mean, I didn't want to be married. I didn't want to have kids. I didn't want to live in St. Louis. I didn't want any of these things, right? And now I live in St. Louis. I'm married. I have 3 kids. I live, when we moved back from North Carolina, we moved 10 houses away from my parents. It's all the things like I didn't want, but I was like, I came in more as me, where before I was like the youngest of 5. All of their names were around. But I was able to come back more as me and understand what that was and be comfortable kind of in my space.
All right. Yeah. So you lived in North Carolina for a while then, right?
Yeah, Asheville, North Carolina. So when I left, I was corporate job. I moved as an engineer. My paperwork went from the left side of the desk to the right side, and that was the end of my day. Corporate America and Kevin we were a little not fitting. So I quit my job. I told my then wife, hey, if you move to North Carolina, I'll probably marry. If not, it's cool. I'll see you later. She decided to come anyway. But that's where, through a series of events, I kind of got into buying houses and being a part of that whole process. And I learned it from like swinging a hammer, all the stuff, digging holes, swinging hammers, doing the construction aspect of it. And I thought that's what you needed to do, is know all the construction side, do it all yourself, not really hiring others or anything else. I thought you had to do everything. So I actually ended up spending probably about a decade just learning construction, just so I could be an investor.
And that was in Asheville, right? That was
most of that was there. When I came back to St. Louis, I started my own contracting company. I am super original with my naming. It was Dairaghi Construction.
Imagine that.
Then I hired a team of 5 people to come up with the Kevin Dairaghi show. Like, maybe I could just figure these out a little bit quicker.
Yeah. So you have a contracting business when you moved back to St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
how long did you run that contracting business here before you actually stepped into the other side? Maybe that's where we'll transition into, is like, how long did you run that business? What caused you to, or what did you see? What happened in your life that caused you to actually step to the dark side of real estate investing?
Well, actually, so when I moved back, I needed a job, right? My wife was pregnant. We were getting a house. So I actually went back to my old engineering job, right? Talk about having your tail between your legs. You just did a million plus, $1,000 house. You're like feeling on top of the world. And then you move into, the neighborhood you grew it and, all the stuff. I'm like, are you sure you want to do this, Cammy? Like, this is, everybody loves Raymond. I'm like, this is what it will be. You sure you want to do this? So we had a baby. We're walking into our new to us house. I just rehabbed it. First baby walking in. Kid is on my shoulder, carrying in the bucket seat. Get the phone call. Hey, Kevin, you're laid off. I was like, son of a gun. It's probably the best thing for me. The next day I started Dairaghi Construction. And that's why, like, having a business and having an actual baby, like, it's the same process. Like, it's
Yeah.
the love, it's what you put into it. But there's the baby phase of it. There's the adolescent. There's the adult, mature version. Like, there's all these different sides of people, just as there is a business. So, I mean, I never asked the government for unemployment. It just wasn't my thing, right? So I started a company and I just started, and that was like through the recession, able to keep my lights on and stuff like that, swinging a hammer for people. But I remember it was my wife's birthday. I don't remember which one, but there's a picture of us and we're both smiling at our old house and all this stuff, but we're not happy, Jeff. And I think I've told this story before, but we bought some food from Pescetti's, which was right by us at that time. I bought like a red and a white bottle of wine, probably the cheapest I had. I couldn't afford the wine. I couldn't afford the food. I couldn't afford like the bag of chips that we were having. And I see that photo, but that's where in my mind, I'm like, we have kids, I have the business. She's a stay-at-home mom. We're not making it. Like, this is enough. I have a bigger idea of who we are supposed to be. So I built this roadmap, right? Okay, right now, Kevin 0.0 isn't connecting the dots, right? But Kevin 1.0 is a successful contractor, right? He paid himself regular. He's doing this, this, and this. Kevin 2.0, right? I'm going to start getting into wholesaling. I'm going to start educating myself, getting into it. And Kevin 3.0 is full-time real estate investor. And I don't know about you, Jeff, but at that time, that was just like a dream. Like, it sounds like a story, like some fairy tale. Like, oh my gosh, you could do this full time. And I'm like, I'll probably be 60, but this was my roadmap I made for myself. And then sure enough, life happens, things happen, and then you get into that position a lot faster. Like now I look at myself, and I'm like, I'm a full-time real estate investor. I've been here for several years, but it's like, okay, what's my new 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 self? Like, how do I walk into that new side of it?
Yeah, it's bizarre how bizarre how that, because I experienced much the same thing that you did. Just I look back. I started doing this in 2015, and I didn't quit my job until 2018. But I look back at this now, like, man, I can't believe I'm sitting here on a Friday morning talking to Kevin Dairaghi on a podcast, like and I don't know, it's just it's a different. I still have these bouts and these moments of like, well, it's the weekend, it's the weekend. I still celebrate the weekend, by the way. I do. I just do. I just it's I've said it before, but it's largely in part because my family's that most of them are working jobs. I didn't come from a family of entrepreneurs at all. I mean, in fact, anytime I bring it up or anytime they're always worried about me. Like they're always really, really worried about me.
Yes.
But yeah, so I can definitely relate, man. That is for sure the way it goes I think it really in any business, to be honest with you. But so you've got your contracting business. Tell me about I guess let's talk about the very first house that now you said you jumped into wholesaling first, right? That's pretty common. It's pretty common leap.
Oh,
right?
I needed to pay the bills.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there were some very practical needs. I did not build up all the savings. I did not have a safety net. It was, we got to get this stuff done.
Right. Right.
Um, so yeah, that's where I wanted some of the faster money. But my dream all along at this time was I want to be a flipper, right? I just did these houses in North Carolina. They're beautiful. I wanted to use my craft, but I didn't have the money. I didn't have any of the things. So I taught myself the marketing. We got involved with REI Black Book. That was going to their conferences and stuff like that. It was so like eye opening that people could do it. And when I could pay for the subscription, it was a sense of accomplishment being able to go through those things. And there was a local RE at the time, that man, I couldn't wait for those events, but that's where I started buying all the things. And I got close to the guy who was running it, so I became like his number two. So he did all the talks and all the stuff, and I became his investor side of it. So you get close to the people doing it, right? And then you get to learn contacts and connections and just people you could talk to. I wasn't, I think I was past the scared part because I had to make it work, which really is a blessing, Jeff. Like, I can't be nervous about it. I'm going to start making cold calls. I can't be nervous. I'm going to knock on some doors. Like, I have to do this if I'm going to feed my family. If I don't, we lose the house. Like, these are my two criteria.
Right.
You get over your fear a little bit quicker there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm trying to think. There was two houses, but I think they're right around the same time. So it's hard to tell which one I got under or which one I sold. But I think one of my first houses I bought was a meth lab in a floodplain in Fenton.
Wow.
Got it under contract, and I didn't know all.
You're off to a stellar start in the. Yeah.
But we had another guy, so we kind of sold it to him. He actually paid us a couple more bucks than what the contract actually was for, because he was like, dude, I took your number, I added 7, and I had a buyer at that. Like, but to us, we'll take anything. We just got in,
Right.
And then the other one, and both of these came from bandit signs. Did you ever do bandit signs?
I did. I've run all over this city with bandit signs.
A necessary evil.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you want to get in on like ground floor stuff.
Still very valid, by the way. Like, I don't, we've got all these newfangled marketing strategies and all this stuff. I love seeing people move to all this new stuff, because that leaves so much opportunity with the old tried and true. I don't want to sound like an old, crusty.
Back in my day.
Yeah, back in my day, we used to wake up at midnight. But yeah, I love that. I love seeing people just flock to all these new, these new marketing strategies. They saturate that, and then they're off to the next big thing. And meanwhile, we're back here. We're still cranking out direct mail. We're cranking out bandit signs. So yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you there. You got your first deal done in Fenton. Right?
And then the other one that went along with that was it was a firehouse off Grace down in the city, and I mean it's funny how this stuff happens, right? But the guy that we ended up selling it to, it was a team of 3 people, and then I became friends with all of them, and one of them I actually, like, 20 years later became like partners with, and we bought a bunch of houses. We didn't know all that stuff at the time, but I was like, it is a large, small town, St. Louis. And that's why having a good name and like process is a big deal here.
It is.
And you were just talking about, bandit signs and SEOs and pay-per-clicks and all these direct mail. My still number one way of doing this is networking and referrals.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, and I definitely want to get into that, because it's been my experience. It took, I think, like anything, networking is going to be a long play. It's going to be a long-term type of, I mean, it doesn't have to be, I guess. If you're Kevin Dairaghi and you're an outgoing type of,
I was going to say,
bubbly personality.
You're like, I'll get into that one day. It's like,
yeah, but I think, and you can tell me how. We're definitely going to talk about how you got into that and how you started building. I think it's pretty much your primary lead source now. It's just straight up networking. It's the freest thing you can possibly get. You know,
Being me.
um, but yeah, I kind of worked that in a different, in a little bit different way. Just so I decided that I was going to niche down. I'm going to niche down into something that I'm good at. I know what I know what I'm doing. And so I really just want to get my name out there and just start letting people know 100% exactly what I did. I am a 100% introvert. Like dude, when we get off this podcast, you can find me in the basement. Like I'm good. But
Holding your knees in the corner.
yeah,
Okay. It's
sucking my
okay.
thumb. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
okay.
But I decided, I do have to. Everyone has to get uncomfortable, and so what I decided to do was niche down, start talking about this creative finance stuff, and really get heavy into it. My first few deals were all subject to deals, and didn't know what the heck was going on, didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I needed some way to pay for these deals, and I couldn't pay for them. So I figured this thing out, and I've been doing them ever since. I think I just completed. I think I completed number 96, 95 or 96 in St. Louis,
Nice.
and so I think now I've kind of, man, this is gonna sound really really conceited, but now I think I'm at that point now where folks know me for this. They call me for this. They call me to because I offer a win-win scenario for them. I will either get them to the closing table on their subject to deal. I'll consult with them, get them to the closing table, or I'll just straight up buy their deal off of them. And it's a beautiful thing. Um, I just said earlier that you know when we talked about the marketing thing about how I love when people like this mass exodus towards all these newfangled ideas, and I'm left with direct mail and the old fangled stuff. But the truth is that I don't do much marketing, paid marketing anymore at all. I do keep up with all the stuff. I kind of have to. I coach on this stuff, so I kind of have to. Um, but yeah, I mean, we're kind of in the same boat. It's just that we've come. I think we've come to that. Uh, we've come to that end in different ways. I think you're just like a super bubbly dude and likable guy. So
I don't know if bubbly is
bubbly might not be the right word, but
I mean,
yeah. So
I get where you're going with that.
yeah. All right. So I guess so now you are you've how long did you wholesale houses?
I mean, I still wholesale houses,
Well, I mean, as a primary business.
as long as I had to.
Yeah.
So, like my story arc there, I was the solopreneur, right? The guy with all the hats, doing all the things, right? Very similar to what you were doing. At this time, my wife really didn't have buy-in. We had small kids at the time, and it was just me juggling all this stuff. So I got involved in pay-per-clicks for a while. I got paid in the SEOs. I was learning the newfangled stuff, and I'm not a technology guy. So like the stuff that you do behind the chair there, that's not my gig. Like I could dissect a house, I could help people do this, but like doing all that stuff that's not my skill set. Um, so I remember I got, I started flipping houses, swinging hammers, wholesales, rehabs. I was doing all these things. My dad got pancreatic cancer, and just, I found out he was my best friend. I didn't know that, right? But he was the guy I always talked with. And we were blessed to have 2 years. Usually you have like 6 weeks, right? But we caught it early, and he had a great life, but it was just, it emotionally broke me, right? And I remember sitting in this house that I was rehabbing. The phone's ringing, right? I'm spending $5, 10, $20,000 a month in marketing. The phone's ringing. This is what you pay for, Kevin. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have enough just emotional ability to pick it up, and that's how far, you end up spending 1 week trying to put up a ceiling fan just because you couldn't do anything, and that's where, uh, I think it's great to be broken, because then you know that you have that ability to get back up.
It's a gift. It is a gift. I genuinely believe that. Yeah. But go
So
ahead.
I went through this, and one, it helps me identify, and like I get people when they're like, "Hey, this is what's going on." You don't have to say anything special, but it's like, "Dude, I get it." Like
Mhm.
you probably feel like this. They're like, "That's it." Um, but yeah, that's how I actually got tied up with this bigger home buyer. So uh, I kind of was lost. My business kind of melted away. I tried to go back to corporate America. I tried to buy a family fun park. I was trying to just put something together. And this group said, "Hey, man, you're pretty good here. Why don't you kind of join us?" And that's where it was like, I got into this thing like, hey, if buying one house, one rehab is good, let's buy five, let's buy 10. And I started creating all this overhead in people, right? I had 3 crews, all employees, office manager, project man, all this stuff was my team. And man, it gets heavy carrying all that stuff. When you're like, well, this one's not a big deal, but I'll just buy it so the guys could stay busy. Well, I could do this. And you're making decisions for the guys, not
Right.
necessarily yourself. Um, and then that's where I got burned out. My wife actually took me down to Herman. We did a bed and breakfast down there just to let me breathe because it's consuming sometimes.
Hmm.
And while we were down there, one of the people in our group had some questions about some contracts and another investor. And I walked them through it. I'm like, man, I kind of like this coaching side. I kind of like helping people get into it. And that's where, I read the book. I think there's actually a picture of me. I was smoking a cigar, reading the book, Start With Why. And I'm like, okay, like I love the people side of the business. How can I do more of that? And then this company I was with, we started this affiliate program, or I kind of helped. So I was teaching and training and behind the scenes of all these people. So it was fulfilling. And that's how I got to be in front of the room. That's how I got to start this path. We ended up splitting, which was weird. Not what I wanted. I was lost. My identity kind of was shaken. Then it took a little while for that to get kind of seated, and now I'm able to be me. And it takes sometimes going through those low points to realize, like, hey, I am a hugger. I am a master networker. I've given a talk about networking now like 3 times. Each time, everybody's like, and it's like, I feel like I'm telling you such basic information, but it's one of those, Jeff, just to show you how powerful this is. I needed to get a deal. So I was like, you know what I'll do? I have a lot of friends. That's not me bragging. That's just one of the things I have, right? I make friends quickly and easily. I went through my things, and actually, you might have been one of them too. Hey, Jeff, it's Kevin. How's this going? How's that going? You still buying houses? You selling houses? Like it was just a petty little text or something because I was cleaning out my contacts. One of the people, I was like, "Hey, how's this going? How's this?" We had a couple fantastic conversations that came out of it, and now I have 2 houses under contract just from reaching out to my friends.
That's awesome. That's
Like
awesome.
that's just
That
now,
quick.
uh,
Yeah.
and now there's a few more. So it's just like, man, talk about. People talk about how complicated this is. It's like, no, man, like this is actually my business. Is I'm a professional friend.
That is a that is an well for an introvert that is terrifying, but also that is like I've never looked at it that way. I've never heard anyone say that. That's you're a professional friend. That's awesome, and it helps you make a living. That's cool. So I do want to go back though because I think you said something that piqued my interest because I actually went through the same thing. And I'm not saying that you went through this. I'm asking you if you went through this. You talked about early on, all the running around and the rigmarole that you went through, and just really no deal flow, all that good stuff. I think there is a silent epidemic, I'll call it, of folks who have spouses, and I'm not quite sure that the spouses are 100% on board with what you're doing. And I don't think it's talked about. I just don't think that I think it's an embarrassing type of thing to speak publicly about it. Um, but I can tell you for myself, when I went, I created this business. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like it was just, I'm just trying to piece things together, and I'm, in some instances, I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul, like just to,
Yeah.
um, and so what I found myself doing was, instead of being uh, really transparent with my wife, it wasn't that I was lying to her. It's just that I didn't know how to tell her. I didn't know how to tell her these things because I was ignorant to them as well. Is that something that you experienced? Is that, am I just like on an island out here somewhere?
I think, and Jeff, this is actually why we do the Kevin Dairaghi show, because it's the personal side behind the professional image.
Mm-hmm.
We're living in an Instagram world where it's all the pretty pictures and everybody's staged and knee up here, turn this way, and we forget that authenticity of we're just people. Like
Mm-hmm.
we have our good days, our bad days. Uh, because now we know we can make the perfect headshot and the AI can fix any blemishes. We don't allow people to have zits now if if once you've made it, no more zits. Like that's like, oh, come on, like this isn't, it's not
That's
reality.
hilarious.
Well, we're putting so much pressure on ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like, hey, once I was able to embrace, hey, this is me. You could either like me for me, or if you want that perfect photo, great, go back to Instagram, go back to HGTV and find what you're looking for. But that's where the personal side, like once you deal with some personal issues, you have professional victories. I can't explain why or how, but it's what
100%.
those so I was in this industry for a long time before my wife actually bought in. But just getting her to be like, okay, for a lot of times, like my family is wonderful. They're a loving family, and my parents are great. But sometimes that is also they mean well, but they weren't entrepreneurs like what you were talking about. They're
Right.
like, Kevin, can you go get a job at Boeing? Why don't you
Right.
go work at go get a safe job because they want you to be safe. Like they really care for you, but that's not what I was meant to be. Like that doesn't bring the happiness, that doesn't bring the joy, that doesn't use my talents, right? It keeps me safe, but it doesn't let me actually be who I am. And I try to do it, it just didn't fit. It just didn't rub. And now I'm able to help some of those people, from a different point of view.
Right.
Sounding board, I've been behind the curtain of so many successful people, and the things that they have, it's like friendships and wives and addictions, and like this is the real life
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes people don't talk about.
Yeah.
Not talking about I'm fat and overweight. They're talking about, oh, look at my 401k. It's what is success. And I think having healthy relationships is a large key of what success really is.
Yeah. Great way to great way to put that out on the table. That's just I know I found, the biggest thing that I think when I went through all that was, my wife would ask me, and I do not blame my wife for not trusting me during these times, like at all, because, like I said, I didn't know, but she used to ask me, she used to say, "Hey, um, what is your goal for this? What is your goal for this?" I'm like, my goal is, it's to, I don't know, get out of my job, or, I didn't have a goal, and I quickly realized, not quickly, I realized over a period of time, take quickly out of there entirely, that goals come, I think achievement of goals, actually goals become more clear the more small wins that you have. So like, it's like taking baby steps. It's like you have a couple of wins, and then all of a sudden that little dot at the end of the tunnel becomes a little bit larger. Like, and it wasn't until, actually, if I'm really being honest, it wasn't until like the last couple of years that I really, when I wake up in the morning, I am now focused on a singular goal. And by the way, that goal has nothing to do with business. Has almost nothing to do with business, other than the business being a tool or a mechanism to get to there. But but yeah, I was just curious about the family dynamic, because I think we probably all go through that to some extent, but it's just not something that is really. It's kind of like hush hush. It's like something that people don't want to talk about very much, and I think it's. I would venture to say that if you don't have the support of your spouse, you are doomed to fail. I mean, it is so important.
You're stacking the deck against you.
Yeah,
And that's like when I went through a couple of my meltdowns, I wasn't I wasn't telling her what was going on, because I wanted to be the man and I just held it in. I didn't want to share the weaknesses, right? And
right.
I think that's a common thing. But I didn't want to cause her fear. It's kind of like if I came back and like, and I'm nervous about it. So instead, I kept everything in, each deal, each thing, and I would always, I'm an optimist, right? So I was, oh, this, we'll get it next time, and she's like, how about today? How about now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, but we're different. And actually, now that we've gone through so many iterations, like we're pretty solid on it.
yeah,
Something happened and I was ready to just cut ties and leave on some of this stuff. And she's like, hey, we're having a lot of success. Like, why don't you just talk it out? And I was like, what? Talk? What? It's funny sometimes when you get slapped around, verbally, like, hey, why don't you talk to this person instead of just cashing in a relationship? And then when you do, you're like, oh my gosh, that conflict actually is better for us. We actually have bigger breakthroughs after we do have a little bit of comfort. Jeff, how do you deal with confrontation? Do you like having those difficult talks?
I am not a confrontational person. What I tend to do is I have a line, and if that line's crossed, I am not necessarily going to confront the person with the line, because I just feel like that's just you just sometimes, maybe not all the time, but that's just like you just airing it out, just getting your feelings out, and I'm not sure that that's best for the situation in a lot of cases.
Are you talking with like a wife on this one, or like
Oh
a
no, this would be like business partners or something
okay?
like that, you know. So what I generally will do is I tend to categorize people like you're either a turd or you're not.
Ah!
All right. So if we're doing business and I am speaking strictly on the business side here, not personal relationship, but if we're doing business together and um, there's some kind of egregious thing that somebody does that I don't agree with, I'm not going to confront them, because like I said, most of the time you're not gonna be able to you can't fix another human being. So and I use the term fix loosely because there's plenty wrong with me as well. But what I'm saying is I would generally just kind of categorize them. I just won't deal with them anymore. I just won't deal with them. I will avoid the conflict. I'm this short of sticking my head in the sand, but I just don't. I don't. A lot of times I just don't know that the airing out my personal dissatisfaction with someone is the most constructive way to deal with that situation, where I can just like, all right, I can't deal with you anymore. So yeah,
Well, I think you bring up two different cases here. So I know there's a local investor here. He's established, and he brought in some underlings and all this stuff. And he did a private lend from one of his underlings, um, set it up, signed the deed. Here's your thing. He took the money directly. The house sold. The underling was like, hey, can I have my money? And he's like, nah,
oof,
what are you talking about? So he set up the contract. It was the wrong address, so it was to an address that doesn't exist. So there was really nothing clean to it. He didn't send the money through the title company; it went to him directly. And then he's like, "Hey, if you sue me or go after me, I'll just go bankrupt and you get nothing." And it's like, what?
what? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So like, I don't go around saying who this person is, right? But you just knocked out a really good dude out of the industry,
hmm
like, and there are those people here, but that person is on my shit list.
yeah,
So like, I'm not going to air it out here, but like you said, that's on like, hey, I don't introduce you. Like that's person, like if I hear his name, it's shut down until you make my friend right. Like there's that idea. I don't like using my platform as to sling mud on people, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to plant those seeds. I want to plant good seeds. Um, but that's one version of it, and I think you mentioned that. But say it's your partner or a person you collaborate with, and then you kind of have that like, oh, this is awkward, but you know what? I care enough about our future relationship, Jeff, that I'm going to deal with this thing that neither one of us really want to talk about. But once we get it out, we find out, oh, we had different assumptions, or there's if then scenarios, and then afterwards you're like, oh man, I'm so glad I brought that up because now we can resolve it and move on and fix it and actually go on farther.
Right. Yeah, I'm learning. My it's a constant battle. Well, I mean, can't really. Maybe this subject is maybe I think everybody battles with this a little bit, but taxes, for crying out loud.
Oh,
Taxes are just. And so my wife is she's constantly on me about the taxes. That's the worst possible. Like that you hit. That's just below the belt. Like I just can't deal with it.
Jeff, here's I haven't really shared this publicly yet. So taxes, so paperwork and taxes, like that's my lowest rung. That's the
Oh
area
yeah.
that is not my special genius zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our CPA comes over, right? So my wife now does the book, so she's the one who does all the entry. Because she's now believing in what we're doing, right? There's been enough proof. She's seen some of the results. She's like, okay, like I am buying into this. I mean, she runs an office for Pete's sake. She knows business side of it, but she knows a different side of it. So, anyways, she's doing it. So when it's actually tax day for us, she is talking. They're there with their computers discussing it. I have to be there.
I love your little.
They're doing
Perfect.
all the actual work of what it is. I usually have a bottle of bourbon, and I'm just like so nervous. And they're like, "You're not doing anything. You're just." I'm like, "I know you're going to ask me for money at the end of this." Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how we do taxes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're good. I mean, we're probably the most solid we've ever been since I've started this. But I mean, it is I don't know. It's just one of those things, man. I just get so curious about people with spouse, about how they interact about it, because I think it's just not talked about, and I think it's a huge deal. All right.
Actually,
Okay, so let's fast forward just. Oh, go ahead. Did you have something?
well, I'm going to help you fix that. Have
Oh,
you
okay.
read the book Traction?
I have. Yep. Many times.
Do you follow the EOS model in your business?
We don't.
Okay.
We have my wife comes from 26, 27 years of operations, and so she like has her own. In fact, she was going to be an EOS implementer at one time, but she's an implementer. So like she's a total integrator. Like she's 100% on that team. So I only tell you that she's been in the business. She's developed certain habits. So she looks at some of the stuff that EOS talks about, and like for the layman like myself, EOS sounds perfect. But when you have someone who's she's actually practical. Yeah, she's high level. So anyway, go ahead with your thought.
So, thought with my thought. So what? After a while, so like Cami and I run this business together, right? But we also run life. We have 3 kids. There's sports. We have things that we're trying to do. Our goals. So we actually on Friday mornings we sit down and it's like, all right, we have KPIs. Like, hey, how many walks did you go on? Did you do your self care? Did you call your this friend or your brother or whatever, like, hey, did you do these things, right? Because we want to have healthy relationships. For me, I track how many push-ups I do, how many times I go for a walk. If we're going through a cycle of a diet, it's like, hey, how many did you eat healthy X days? Cool. And we have to hold each other accountable. But then we say, all right, this quarter we said we're going to do 1, 2, 3. How are we doing on that? Okay. Last week we said we're going to do this. Like, so we're in the process of building a house. So it's like, okay, we need to get a survey. We need to get this done. Okay, great. You do this. I do this. You do this. But then it's also like, hey, we have X houses. Do we keep them or do we sell them? We go through our issues list. Okay, we have a tournament this weekend going here. Who's going? Are we both going? What kid do you get? Like but we treat our personal life and our business like it's the same conversation, but we just go through, and it's like, okay, out of something. So like we're building online courses. We're in the actual process of it. So we just went out, we got a coach, we got some people, here's resources, let's break it down so people could consume this stuff. We get to do this as a team. It's not, this is you, honey, this is me, honey. It's like, okay, she's doing some of the research, it's my content, me talking, etc. But it's how do you distribute some of this stuff? What is our method of attack? And we're able to tackle it as a couple, right? And it's not just properties, but it's also, lifestyle and kids. And, are you keeping up with all these other things? So to get, I mean, I love it for couples. But you
You
also,
love EOS for couples. That's a new book, by the way. It's a brand new book.
oh, is it
EOS.
out there?
No, no, no,
Oh,
no. You just created it.
but it's just, I mean, it's the personal drives a professional.
Mm-hmm.
And because I look back to when we were like just not doing it right, it was me versus her. And I remember some of this was like, hey, did you send out those invoices to the clients? Well, did you do the laundry? Well, did you do the bookkeeping? Well, did you do the dishes? Like it was a fight, not a, oh, yeah, we got to get all this done. Let's go team. It was more like an argumentative point, and which isn't really successful for anybody.
Yeah, really interesting. I've never looked at I've never looked at that type of model and bringing it into a marriage. That's very interesting. I may talk to you more about that. That's interesting. Very cool. So while we're on that education subject, talk a little bit about Master Investors Tribe.
Uh, so I've got to, I'll use the word evolve,
Okay.
Jeff, because I'm not a big fan of gurus, right? That
Mhm.
one person that I know everything about this, this, this. And the more I get into it, I know the areas that I'm good at. I think I could communicate well, complicated things for the most part, but I also have a lot of friends, right? So the idea that Master Investors Tribe, it's a community, right? It's a tribe, it's a group of people. But the fact that there could be different experts, different masters in different subjects, right? So it's the overall education and process of how it works, which you can get from a lot of us, right? But it's, hey, here's the process. But like subject twos, man, that is a niche spot, and Jeff is an expert in it. He is a master in this world. How can we create space where you could kind of teach about what you want to talk about? By the way, you open for November?
I am.
Okay.
Well, it's going to be spotty. I'm supposed to go to California, but yes.
So the second Thursday of every month is MIT,
Hmm.
10:30 to noon. I mean, we have vendors. It's a live event. We stream it. It's not as pretty as what you have here, but it's just the different masters sharing their craft with the people. It's during the day. Why? Because I have kids and family. I do
Yeah,
that stuff in the nights and weekends.
yeah.
For the most part, if you want to get me, it's easier during the day. Like this week, we have three boys. We had 1 to 2 soccer games every night this week. Like I just don't have that time to give
Yeah,
in different places. So
yeah, yeah. That's funny you say that. It's you try and step away from, or at least I do. I'm kind of changing the subject just a little bit, changing the subject just a touch, but you kind of step away. You think you're at a spot in your business where you're like, okay, things are smooth. I can start planning things out and maybe going on trips or just sitting around the house, just relaxing, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, like weeks like this week, my son's coming into town. He's here now. I actually had to have them, like this room that you see here was supposed to be a temporary room. It was supposed to be because my wife had surgery. I brought my desk up here so I could be close to her. Blah 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 blah. But then weeks like this week, just they just blow up. I had someone. I told you I consult on these subject to deals, and I have someone closing a subject to deal on Monday, and they notified me yesterday that they wanted to use my services. It's like, oh man, I don't know. I just I feel like weeks like this week make me feel like I'm back in that entrepreneurial rat race, trying to figure this stuff out. Um, but yeah, so I guess on the Master Investor now with Master Investors Tribe, are you? Is this is a St. Louis thing? This is a local St. Louis thing, right? Have you ever had any? Uh, I don't want to say ambition because you're an ambitious person anyway, but have you ever had any thoughts about kind of packaging that up and letting other folks know, like across the country? I mean, we've got students all over the place, and you know, maybe I just gave you the gold. I don't know.
It is. So, I mean, I run a local meetup slash RIA, whatever people are
Mhm.
used to. Actually, I might actually have two, right? So, Master Investors Tribe is teaching people about the investing side of it. Cashflow Nation, that's our, we believe agents need to be buying their own stuff and having their own portfolio because there's no retirement really for
That
agents,
is true. That
and
is very
nobody
true.
is really servicing this. So we created Cashflow Nation. We're actually a downline of EXP. So basically, we don't have to do the paperwork. We don't have to be the back office, but we could actually show you how to either cater towards investors, right? Where you could just, because a typical homeowner, they're buying a new house every 9.7 years or something, like
Mhm.
something crazy. Well, you're going to need a huge SOI to keep those people rolling. Or you deal with an investor that might be buying 1 to 5 houses a month. Okay, like which one would you rather work with sometimes?
Right, right,
I'm not saying it's easy, but it's also, we also believe that the agent themselves should be investing as well, right?
right.
If people are calling you already for your craft, why not keep a few yourself?
Yeah, that's something that I don't think a lot of, especially a lot of buyers, a lot of buyers don't really realize that being an agent is very transactional in nature. Like it is, it's like being a wholesaler, except you don't get paid as much. Generally speaking, that's what it's like. I'm going to throw a quick QR code up here for folks, guys. If you, hey, it looks fancy, right?
It's like,
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't send you any of this stuff.
No, hey guys, if anyone in the particularly in the St. Louis metropolitan area, if you are in the area and you want to get connected with Kevin, this is going to have a link. This has a link to your website. I hope that's all right.
Sure,
I didn't pre-approve this with you or anything, man.
which
Just gonna.
which website?
It's Kevin Dairaghi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. I believe.
I
Take a picture of it and see.
yeah.
I set it up last week, so
Well, I mean, I
so
have a few.
this will be a first. That's cool.
Dun, dun, dun.
Where did it send you?
Actually, I'm not sure. I have somebody making all these new for me, so I'm not. Uh, so,
All right.
so there's Kevin Dairaghi and Master Investors Tribe, right? So I talk a lot about the personal and professional. The personal is the Kevin Dairaghi, right? That's the podcast. That's the talking about our three main tenets really for all this stuff is the most important real estate is between your ears. Your personal drives your professional, and it's all about relationships, right? Those are my three tenets. Kevin Dairaghi, the life roadmap, Kevin Dairaghi show, all that stuff. That is like the personal side of it. So that works primarily for people in real estate. It's entrepreneurs. It's really anybody in a leadership type scenario. Leadership can be as a friend. It can be as a parent. It can be in your local community, right? You need leadership, whatever level that is. Master Investors Tribe, or MIT is what we call it. That's the tool of real estate.
Got it.
So we're looking at merging that into one site. I'm not sure if it's there yet, but it's the same coin, just we're looking at two different sides.
Got it. Got it.
But you need the personal KPIs and metrics because once you have that, you're able to be professionally successful as well.
Right. So I started a little scroll down there. This is the best way that I found that you can find Kevin Dairaghi, and
So
that
I'm,
is
I'm reading it now. It's like,
yeah.
oh, this is so cool.
Simply Google Kevin Dairaghi podcast.
Google.
That's the best way to do it because you're all over the place. So I like tried to. Hey, it's low tech, but it'll work. I mean, because
It's
you're
low
all over.
tech as we're on our computers streaming
Right.
up the satellites down.
Yeah.
Low tech. Yeah. Big deal.
All right. Oh, look, I got a little notification too that someone scanned that. So that was you. Perfect.
Right.
All right. Where do we want to go from here? Yeah, I don't know what is. So I guess maybe let's talk about current day. What are you as far as like on your real estate side? What are you like? Do you have a portfolio built now? Are you? What is your main focus on the real estate side now?
Boy, I could answer that a lot of different ways. How much time? How long is this?
It's however long we want to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had a partner. We owned a bunch of houses together, right? I had to have that unnecessary conflict, but he was going through some personal stuff and we had to split up. So he got some houses, I got some houses. I went through this process that every time that house queued up, oh, hey, X address, needs this, or here's the rent, or every time I saw it, I just thought of that relationship that went into the struggle mode and that conflict. And I was like, gosh, I just don't like being reminded of that. So I actually ended up going through and sold most of those rentals. They were producing rentals. I sold them because I didn't want to have that personal like punch in the gut every time it came up.
Mhm.
And it just was clear for me. So I'm down to, I actually sold down to three of them. One more is in that lot that I'm going to sell off. The other two I bought myself, but I have two under contract to buy. One's a duplex, one's a single family. But like I'm starting to build back up because I have all those resources, all those other things to it. But I don't like carrying unnecessary burden.
Mhm.
I love paid off rentals. Those are wonderful.
That's a cardinal sin in this business, but so they say, But plenty of people. I mean, look at folks like Scott Jelinek. He's killing it with his slow flips, and that's the whole point: is to pay those rentals off, or they're not even rentals, but yeah, that's the whole thing.
But if you come up with a bigger roadmap, like I now have larger lenders that are like, hey, you want to buy something in Florida? You want a couple of million? Here you go. Hey, you want to buy it? Sure. Here you go. Like, we'll back you, but that doesn't happen right away. You got to build up that relationship, right? You got to build up that trust. But yeah, I did have a larger portfolio. I shrunk it down purposely so I can be a little bit more aggressive just as us, right? So now I'll spend a little bit more time making it right in the beginning, so my maintenance won't be as high, So, but when you kind of buy it with another person, we thought we were doing great being a part of all these deals, but it turns out it really is nice having something of yourself,
Hmm.
So paid off rentals, I could do a line of credit on those, right? Say I want to invest in a new surge or something, or I need money. I went over a budget. Great. I could just borrow from something, pay it, turn it back when it's done.
Yep.
When you have partnerships and different agreements, it gets a little bit cloudier.
Yeah.
Um, but that's
Yeah.
a
That's
lot
an
of,
art form. An art form finding that person that complements you, that you actually you actually get along with, and that that keeps those you're always going to have conflicts, but keeps those conflicts kind of in check, and you don't it just doesn't feel like you have to work so hard when you find the right person.
when your rentals, are you solo or are you partnered?
So I was going to bring this up. I mean, it sounds. I don't know if you know our model. Our model is very specific, but what we do is this is why the creative financing part, or this is where it really comes into play. So what we do is we go out, we find a property, we we always have a just a regular cash offer. Our offers always include a couple of creative finance offers.
Mhm.
So that's our goal: pick up a property, creative finance. We turn around and we sell or finance those properties. Now, there's going to be all these arguments about seller finance and the benefits and the pros and cons of seller finance, and I get it, but I am the worst landlord you will ever meet. Um, and quite honestly, this might not be the same case in all these other cities, but there is a real problem here in our market with property management. I mean, a real problem. It's a dire situation. Like, it's really bad. It can be. So I just decided I wanted out of rentals altogether. So what happens then when I get a property that comes across my desk and it's in a purely rental area? Uh, what I have done, and here's how much I hate being a landlord, or as I have. It's now my job. I found a partner, and you know her. You at least know of her. But I found a partner where I go out. My job is to find the deal, find the money, and then I bring her in. I give her 50% ownership in that deal, and then the deal is that she's going to manage that from, and she's very very good. She's an awesome landlord. She's the best. Like I mean, she's just awesome. Other than that, if it's not a multifamily, and I'm well, you can actually sell the multifamily to another landlord on seller finance. But all of my other single families that I get, I seller finance them. And you talked about that. We talk about the freedom that we're looking for through real estate, and that ultimately is what gives me freedom. I don't have to worry about maintenance. I don't get involved in very very little contact after these properties are sold. Very little. And so it really is. It's right up my alley because no, I don't get some of the tax benefits down the road that I don't see future appreciation. I don't get that. Whatever. I still have cash flow. I still, I'm holding a note on all these different single family properties, and it works out for me. I love it. I love it so much that I can't see myself. I can't see myself moving into any other kind of vertical at all. I just love that model so much. So might be something, I don't know, maybe down the road if where this let me back up. Where this is really really particularly valuable is for these people that are just uh, getting into real estate or getting into their buy and hold or starting to build these portfolios. Because what are we all told? You've said you've been to all the different REI Black Book events, and I've been to probably 500 different real estate events. And every single one of those, or almost every single one, you hear, well, how do you get out of your job? Well, you get out of your job by you go out and buy these assets and you rent them out and you start cash flowing them. And when that cash flow exceeds your monthly nut, then you're out of your job. But it's not true. It's not true at all. And that number always seems to hover right around like between 10 and 15 properties is when somebody can quit their job. And that's total baloney. I did that. And nobody talks about dealing with first of all dealing with tenants and all the maintenance and the expense that goes. I mean, 40 cents of every dollar you can bet on it is going to go back into that property. So you need to really double that number, in my opinion. I think you need to have at least 30, minimum of 30 properties before you even consider quitting your job. If that's your goal. If you want to wholesale and you want to, and you want to supplement your income through transactional deals, fine. But if you're talking about buy and hold, I just think 30 is probably much safer anyway.
So what is the lowest you'll cash flow on a house and say yes to it?
I have a minimum of $400 a month. That's what I need. That's what I need to make on any given house. And the cool thing, like man, I'm really going to pitch this seller finance thing. But the cool thing about that is I have this little thing called arbitrage, interest rate arbitrage. So I can, generally speaking, I can build that into each one of my deals, even those deals that might not make a whole lot of sense to a bunch of other people. I can generally build in that minimum cash flow requirement into each deal, and then from there, it's just now that amount is never going to increase. I can never really increase that cash flow amount, so I do have to move on to the next deal. But that is, to answer your question, that's my minimum number. It's $400 a month.
That's actually pretty high. I mean, well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about it, I'll go down to 250, but that's after property management. That's after all the different things are cut out. Like I don't manage anything. I actually have, I think, 3 different property managers right now.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that. But I also realized I'm not a good property manager.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I got the big heart, you know, so it's like, hey, you called and you're having troubles. Oh, it's okay. Like, no, you're fine. It's like, okay, I need somebody in there that's like, no, you still pay me.
Right. So you got the big heart. I got the non-confrontational attitude. So yeah, that's a losing situation, man.
When I'm like, hey, do you need money? I'll send you money. It's like, okay, that's not how you run rentals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, but I have a little bit of a hybrid. Like I don't need all of these rentals, but man, if you have a paid off house and you're getting $1,000 here or nine, like
Yep.
that's pretty solid.
Yeah. That is a, I mean, that is a really interesting model. You know, it's not going to be popular. It's just not popular. Everyone's going to tell you you're crazy for not holding some paper on those properties. But I'm on your team, man. Like it's yet another reason. It's just a safety net. You know, it's like you really can't go wrong there. Other than like you said, if you need capital, you need some capital, you just line of credit against those properties. How do you
Well,
feel about? Go ahead.
and everything's paid off, but I do like that
Oh yeah, yeah,
strategy.
yeah.
Here's the other thing: is maybe that strategy, like the do it slow. Like
Hmm.
now, you know, I'm a big fan of the 30-year fixed. One, because it's fixed,
Hmm.
but two, it maximizes your cash flow every
Right.
month of what you could do. But here's the thing: because I just went through it, it's like, why don't I just hold these things for 5 years or so? Take a couple of them, sell them off, make some, get a chunk, get a 1031. Now I could go into a larger multi, or I could buy,
Now you're thinking.
you know,
Yeah,
it's like, hey, there's,
yeah.
in a sense, what do you really care about the monthly cash flow when your equity is really starting to give you something to play with in the future?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we could sit and talk about this stuff all day long. I love it. But how do you feel about? I have a personal feeling about my own home. I know several people like we own our home. Our home's paid off,
Nice.
but I always have these. Everyone's always telling me, well, why aren't you taking out a line of credit on your home and doing this? And I'm like, well, number one, I got to get that past the wife. All right, let's just put that out front. But secondly, it's like this is the very last place on earth. If if this world folds, if the you know, I'm not I'm not a prepper. I promise. I probably should be,
Mm.
but I
If
mean,
I come
if
to your house, Jeff, are you going to have that little bunker in the back?
I don't, not yet, not yet.
You have that little liver guy's little stuff made so you could.
Yeah, yeah. I think the most you're going to find is my entire backyard is a garden. Like literally, you can go anywhere in my backyard and plant if you wanted to. But no,
Impressive.
how do you feel about that? You feel about involving your personal finance side with your investment side?
Um, huh. Jeff, this is awkward. So I have just over an acre here in South County.
Okay.
We are dividing it. So we're in the process of subdividing. We just need actually one more signature, and obviously this, by having a buildable lot, my net worth went up $150,000. That's it. Like it doesn't. It's crazy how a couple pin strokes and you have more worth on these things.
Yeah, yeah.
We're building our house right next to this one. Um, this house that we're in, we still have a mortgage, we still have plenty of equity, all that stuff. But I could either pull the equity or I could just throw this straight into a midterm rental, literally leave everything here. And, you know, there's a hospital here, there's different, you know, this could go straight into a traveling nurse place. We could rent this out. I mean, we're going to take what everything we've done here and it's just basically going to offset its cost, give us some stuff, and I mean, actually, it'll be able to, you know, help pay for the other house. Not to mention, we just created a whole bunch of equity, or I just gifted myself money for that build.
Hmm.
Like, oh my gosh, I actually have more money to pull from by actually building more, which sounds crazy. But we also, I want to put another like a duplex behind this one. So you're saying this is the last resort? I'm like, I'm also the one, you know, I hug. So like, I'm a big fan of family and friends. So like, I have no issue bringing everybody closer and kind of building my own little world here. So kind of what you're saying. If this shit goes down, well, then I want my people close.
Yeah.
And that's a way that I could kind of do it in a monitored way.
Man, I wish I had that attitude. I really do. Like I feel like I'm missing out on something, but I just I don't know. It's I struggle with it for real. I love my family and everything, but they just gotta be loved at a distance.
Also a people person a little bit more probably than
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Well, hey man, this wasn't so bad. I mean, we got to shoot the shit a little bit. It's a good time. So I think I'm gonna call it though. It's been an hour and 11 minutes.
Sure, man.
Yeah.
It's your show.
The second time you reminded me of that, Kevin Dairaghi.
It's not the Kevin Dairaghi show. Just saying.
All right, man. Well, hey guys, really appreciate you joining us. I know this one went over just a little bit, but super interesting, dude. We need to connect a little bit more. Maybe get me out of my shell, and maybe I don't know. Maybe I just need a hug. Maybe that's what it is.
Well, Jeff, we play pickleball every Tuesday afternoon, Kirkwood Park, from 12:30 to 2:30. That's it. It's just pickleball. We just go out there, we play it. I got tired of going for coffees and drinks and lunches with all these people. Just, hey, I'm doing something fun. We got all the stuff. You don't need to know how to play. Just hang out. Have fun. That's it.
I will probably join you, but I'll probably find an excuse not to first.
Oh, I know your type, buddy. I know your type.
Yeah. All right.
Jeff,
All right, guys.
Great with you, man. You tell me.
Yeah, man. We'll figure something out for sure.
And
I might actually join you up there. I got a couple of rehabs going on right now that really require my attention, but that's the reason I declined your invitation last time. So,
yeah. And Jeff, I believe your episode on my podcast will come out maybe in 2 weeks. So you'll be
dope.
Soon.
There's one podcast I probably won't be listening to. I can't stand my own voice, man. I can't.
Great, man.
All right, man. Well, we really appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. It's been a lot of fun. At least I get a kick out of it. I hope everyone else does. But really, really appreciate it. And we will catch you later on, Kevin.
Thanks,
good,
man.
Thanks, Jeff. Right. See you. All right, guys. That's going to do it. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed that conversation. I don't know. Kevin's an interesting cat. He brings the life out of people. Certainly me. Definitely gets me out of my shell a little bit. So, guys, take care. We'll catch you next time.